Okay, good evening and welcome to Neuropedia's first live webinar. My name's Donna Wicks and I'm a children's physiotherapist, and this is my colleague Andrea.
Hi everyone, I'm a speech and language therapist and I work very closely with Donna as part of our multidisciplinary team at Neuropedia.
So we're here today to talk to you about using play and how you promote your child's development through play. And today we're not just talking about children with special educational needs, but we are talking about any child that has a developmental issue. Now, fortunately, for both for Andrea and I, we're mums too. So I'm a mum of two children. I have a 5-month-old little girl, Amber, and a nearly 3-year-old little boy, Monty. And you have?
I have 2 children. I have Gia and I have little Carter who's nearly 2.
Okay, so we're not going to just be talking about kind of the therapy behind and how we use play in therapy, but we're going to talk about it how we use it in our own situations at the moment. So the best thing to talk about at the moment is how I, at the moment, utilise tummy time with Amber. And I'm sure you did tummy time with Gia and Carter.
We did a lot of tummy time. You were very persistent about us doing tummy time and how important it was. So Carter was on his tummy a lot. It also helped for his reflux because he had bad reflux. So that was one of your recommendations, get him on his tummy as much as he can, and definitely helped his development in that way.
So tummy time is something that we encourage really from very, very early on. And the reason we encourage that is it's to help stimulate the strength in the back muscles, and it also helps to stimulate the shoulder strength, so the children learn this kind of pushing up, and that takes you on to kind of crawling. But going back, this doesn't happen overnight. This is something that takes time. So Amber went on to tummy time when she was a couple of days old, and she started off like right on me in this position, and I did the same with Monty, and now she's lying on the floor and she's starting to push up, and she's now trying to what we call turn around. Now, rather than me just going, here Amber, just lay on the floor, what I do is now I place the toys around her, so the toy isn't placed in front.
Most boys are lazy.
So he was really lazy on tummy time, and he really didn't kind of want to push up. He didn't really want to do more than happy just laying, and then would moan and get frustrated. Whereas with Amber, she's really happy in this position. Her little legs are flapping away, and we're kind of getting the bottom lifts and the bums pushing up as well now. And that's because what I do is I get down on the floor with her and I show her the book and I show her what we're going to play with. But rather than just placing it there in front of her, which is easy, I then move it round to the side, which is encouraging her to come round. How did you do tummy time with Carter then?
Very much the same. We had a really nice tummy time mat that his gran got him that had a toy and a track that went round. So it was really good because he followed the little, I think it was a snail or a mouse, and it followed, and every time it hit the end, it came back round, and it also had a song. So not only did his tummy time help with his motor development, we were working a lot on, from my side, his language development. Following, tracking, and looking up at me when he wanted again, which in a baby, that is very much a way of interaction and communication and requesting what he wanted. So when the toy did cry or call me in the way that he did, or look up at us, and that's a way of developing his language. So even at that age, at 6 weeks, children already start interacting, as well as by watching the toy, they playing by themselves, which is a really good way of children learning how to attain to a task, which leads to conversation. It's very good for listening, which again, in a conversation, you need to do. So even at that young age, you're looking at different ways that communication is going to develop just by them playing on their own.
Yeah. And also then coming down to that level, so I at the moment come down to see Amber, and she makes that lovely eye contact, we're getting the smile, and she's now starting with that lovely babbling and the cooing sounds and things like that. And so we're taking turns. So am I doing that right with her at the moment in terms of trying to stimulate the turn taking and conversation?
Definitely, and also copy what she's doing. So make the same sound she does, and it helps her to learn to wait for her turn. You can also do that. See if she starts copying you, because she now knows that when I do a sound, mommy copies me.
Right.
So now you do the opposite, which is a really good way of not only developing different sounds, because you can make it into like a ba or a pa or a but it's also good for turn taking within a conversation.
Right, okay.
So.
And what about, she really loves the mirror?
Best way to teach children language. Even with Carter, what I used to do, we used to stand him in front of a mirror or hold it and teach him who mommy and Carter were. So he'd go, there's mama, and give mama a kiss. So he would lean forward and give a kiss. There's Carter.
And then headbutt the mirror like I do.
Constantly. Always had a little bruise on top of his head. Also doing things where you are doing mouth play, so he can see himself do it. Things like peekaboo in front of a mirror is great. And also what we would do is we'd sing the hello song by the mirror. So I'd go, hello Carter, how are you? And then get him to wave, which is another good way of communication.
Okay. And what age would you continue to use the mirror, or do you...
Still use it.
Okay.
Still use it. And even for children as they get a lot older, when you're doing articulation of sounds, we still use the mirror so that they can see what's happening and what they're doing. It also encourages them as they get older, you're looking at 6, 7, 8, those type of ages, where they can end up practicing by themselves. So teaching them the independence. So not only listening to sounds, but see how they do it, because they're used to how we do it.
Yeah. See, I use the mirror in therapy with some of those children that don't necessarily have the body awareness. So by them being able to look at themselves in the mirror like you do with focusing at the oral, I look at the mirror and I'm kind of go, oh, here's my arm, and naming. And so I use the mirror that way to try and copy so that they can look at themselves and get that kind of biofeedback visually.
So a question for you, Donna, is what happens for little children or children who have motor difficulties? When do you make them stand versus sit versus kneel in front of a mirror?
Okay, so I think what we talk about, let me go back then for parents that kind of don't understand. Well, we're talking about a motor difficulty, we're talking about the actual movement, a physical movement. So the first priority would be that you want to encourage this tummy time, because tummy time, as I say, strengthens the back, and that's what encourages the sitting. Okay, so if you've got the strength through your arms and you've got the strength through your back, then you can sit. Sometimes what happens is we get lots of children that have either delays just generally in their development because they're not being put in the different environments and stimulating, or they are not progressing with regards to they're just stuck on their back. They don't like tummy time, so parents bring them out because they moan. So they're left on the back, we get a funny shaped head, and then we get these things that spiral out of control sort of thing. So what happens in terms of the development is every child is different. Every child is going to meet their milestones at different stages. And milestones, as a mum and as a therapist, you want it to be kind of within the parameters, but don't be hung up on, oh, my child's not doing this by this age. That doesn't matter to a certain extent, and we'll probably talk about that in a bit. So the things that you need to encourage is, first of all, is tummy time. If your child doesn't like tummy time, don't encourage lots of sitting, because you're never going to be able to take them back down again. Because once they can sit, oh, I don't really want to go back down. And then you get the fight. And then you tend not to get the crawling. You get those children that want to bottom shuffle instead because they haven't learnt that strength there. So as I say, tummy time is really, really important. Once your child is happy in tummy time, then you can encourage the sitting. I actually have had a couple of children that at 9 months have never been put in sitting. So although they're very strong, actually now don't want to sit and don't want to play. So their attention skills and their ability to attend in that position is a bit of a problem. So there is no right or wrong answer. It's just get your child familiar as possible in a tummy time, and then you can mix up your position. But if your child really doesn't want to be in a tummy time, then that's what you need to prioritize first and work on. and you get that, oh, but they've got reflux. Actually, you find most children with the silent refluxes and that have tummy issues want to be on their tummy because it helps. So again, Amber and Monty on their supervised sleeps during the day when they're downstairs with me would often be put on their tummy and generally had the best sleeps than being on their back, because both of them suffered intermittently with the refluxes. The kneeling, again, you come to that when you've got head control and that your child can sit on your lap. There's still some wobble, but you can then put them into a kneed position. The thing that you have to remember with children putting them in a kneeling position is some children have those gorgeous yummy thighs that have got a little bit of extra yumminess to them. With Monty, I didn't have that, so I could have him in kneeling and not need to worry about the circulation to his feet. But sometimes with those children that are that little bit chunkier, because the fat squashes, sometimes you can see the feet go a little bit white because the blood supply is not coming through. So that's something that is a safety thing that you kind of just need to be aware of. It's those positions that you then get this, what I call the pushing down through your hands and you drive up through your trunk. They're the positions that you see your child would naturally want to pull up into standing. But it all comes through the tummy time, and that's why tummy time is so important, because of this push. Okay, so it's the trunk and the shoulder stability that you really, really need. So does that help? Does that answer?
Answer a lot of questions for me as a therapist. I just see that we have a question on Instagram. It says, I have an 8-month-old baby. What can I do to encourage verbal communication and interaction? Okay, so with the 8-month-old, they're still very young. But in terms of encouraging, it's all about how you play with them. Have a lot of toys. So for example, I can show you with a phone, is something like this is a lot of fun, and even my 2-year-old still uses this phone. What we do is you would pick up.
Sorry.
So you would pick it up and you'd be like, hello, hello, where's daddy? Do you want to speak to daddy? And then you give the phone to them. And at 8 months old, you're probably going to have to hold the phone for them. Children only really start saying words we're looking at 12 months. We're looking at about 20 words. So encouraging words like mama and dada. More is a really good one to encourage. So every time you're doing a snack, don't just hand it over to them and leave them. Rather sit with them, hold the little packet of chips or the fruit that you have, and encourage them by going, do you want more? More? And when they look up at you and try and make an interaction, that's when you give them. It's the same with toys. It's the same with everything that they want. You need to encourage them to say it. And the younger you do it, the better. Peekaboo is also a great one. That gives them anticipation and cause and effect, where you actually close your eyes, you put their hands over as well, so then you go boo and move their hands away. So any games and interactions where you're playing and they're fun, all communication
I'm
is
going to
key.
interrupt there, because peekaboo is brilliant also from a physical perspective, because if you're trying to get a child to use their arms, bringing their hands to midline against gravity and things like that, so they're lying on their back, and you put a little cloth or something very light over their face, you can say, oh, where's Andrea? Where's Andrea? And what you're looking for is you might just get a move of the head if they're that little, but you also may then get the swiping across the face. You get them to move it off. So that's also, peekaboo is one that we use because you get that lovely motor response too.
And it's the same, I'm sure, with an 8-month-old, they should still be trying to do tummy time, starting to sit, roll over, those type of things. And you for their communication, you encourage them with those type of games. So you do them together.
Okay. Have we had any more questions?
I do. I have a 3-month-old and her head is bobbing. What can I do to help?
Okay. At 3 months, you're generally to expect a little bit of head bobbing. Okay. Most children by then will have some head control. So it means that you can sit them on your lap and the head generally is there. The head bobbing, if they've been sat there for a little while and they're head bobbing, they're tired. That's perfectly normal. They're just tired. Okay, you'd expect that. If you were to get head bobbing in a child that's maybe 6 months, then actually that would be something that I would be going, either you're not doing enough tummy time or haven't done any at all. or there's something that actually maybe you should just go and see your pediatrician just to check that one out, because you'd expect generally your head control to come around 2 to 3 months. But again, the tummy time is so important from day one, because that's where you develop the head control. Also, when you're sitting and you're winding your child, you often can use this type of hold. So you're supporting around the jaw up here to hold the head up. What you can do is intermittently is you can drop that hand down to try and get that child to bring the head up. But again, the thing that's really important is why do you want your child to lift their head up? You need to give them a reason to look up. The reason we develop head control evolutionary is to lift our head up and look and engage and socially with the environment. So if you're not giving your child a reason to look up, like you do, talking about the communication and the stimulation and those sorts of things, if you're not entertaining and active with them and they're not lifting their head up, are you giving them a reason to lift their head up?
Exactly.
Because that's often the case. And in today's society as well, where we have iPads and, here, take this. And I'm a culprit at that every now and then. They're down here.
Yeah.
And then from a postural perspective, children are developing this. So even now, say Monty's coming up 3 soon, and even now I get him down on his hands and knees, we're crawling, we do obstacle courses, all the dining chairs are stacked up and I put a big blanket over the top and we've made the cave and we crawl through, even I crawl through, to still stimulate the crawling and those types of activities. I had a new lamp delivered the other day and there was a load of polystyrene blocks in there. I've masking taped all that together and made a giant step that we climb up and jump off. So you can utilize anything to make, what else do I use at home that we use with Monty? Oh, I've got a little balance beam. So we walk along the balance beam. Again, he's only little, I wouldn't expect him to be able to do it, but actually with practice and play, he can come along. I think you said to me the other day that you're teaching Carter how to jump.
Yes, we're teaching him how to jump.
How's it going?
Good, actually. But I mean, my husband is an ex-gymnast, so it does make a huge difference that he knows those things as well.
But what approach are you using? Are you going, Monty, Carter, just jump, or are you breaking it down? Is it fun? How are you doing it?
The other part of that is really important is the child has to know what jump actually means. So I would say look at that first, and then what we do, we hold him under his arms and we tell him to jump and immediately bends both his legs. So that's what the point he's at.
And then
now.
you're bringing him up.
We're bringing him up. He still every now and again will stand, and which is really good is he does lift both feet at the same time. So that's a good thing. I see we have another question here. It says, my 4-year-old is saying vroom vroom when he is playing with animal toys and not quack quack or bow bow. Is this normal? The thing that we need to look at is what are you doing as a parent when he does this? So he's obviously learned the word vroom vroom. He enjoys it. And when he plays with the cars, he gets something out of it. So either the car makes a noise or the car's moving. Now with animals, they don't really do much. So he's not getting anything out of it. So he hasn't learned that the animal doesn't say vroom vroom. So what you need to do as a parent is when he has the animals, you make the sounds and ask him if he can have a turn. So don't ever say to a child, say this. So if he's playing with a cow, you don't go, say moo. What you do is you'll say, yes, Mr. Cow. Mr. Cow goes moo moo. What does Mr. Cow do? And then give him the turn to do it. If he says vroom vroom, you would say, oopsie, a cow doesn't say vroom vroom, or a duck doesn't say vroom vroom. That's the car. Should we get the cars? So you never say to a child, no, you imitate and you teach. That's how what I would do in order to correct what he's doing. If he still does that after 1, 2, 3 months, then I would say, let's go see what's going on, because it means that his brain isn't learning, the language part of his brain isn't learning differentiation, and we need to find out why. But I think if you're very persistent with it and continue with trying, after a month or 2, it should develop on its own.
So what age should a child start being able to name objects and make these associations. Like, I'm just thinking about kind of Monty with colours and things like that. At what age should he be able to identify it? Should he be able to match it first? Should he be able to instantly name it? How does this kind of learning process and how do you develop it?
So he would definitely be able to, in order for him to do it, he would need to know what it is first. So if you had to say, show me red, and he's able to show red. And if you say, show me blue, and he's able to do it. When he knows what they are on an understanding level, you start working toward naming them himself.
Right.
Now,
okay.
at his age, where you're looking between 2 and 3, a child does normally have between, so 2 and 3, so that's a lot. By 1, they normally have around 20.
Okay.
So it's all about making sure what they're labeling is correct. Will he say the sounds all correctly? No, but that doesn't matter. But he can't pick up a car and go ball because, well, it's not a ball. If he looks at the wheels and says ball, you can understand why, because it's round. So that's how you see if they're making associations or not. So
so how would you encourage kind of this naming through play? Is there a certain technique that you use, or is it just a case of just getting down on the floor and being with your child?
Yes.
And
it's all about being on the floor and playing with them and teaching them how to do something. And you'll often find children will either play by themselves and watch what you're doing, so they parallel play, they still engage with what you're doing, but they're not coming near, and you actually play. You build a train set, you play with dolls, you play with animals, and don't just leave your child with the toys
so
and you sitting on your phone.
It's role modeling
Exactly.
and copying and things like that. Okay, so that makes sense.
And what you'll probably find is that you'll see them playing on their own and actually doing what you're doing. So although it's not play, due to lockdown and quarantine, my husband and I are both working at home and being at home a lot more. Something my husband does is when he's on the phone, he paces up and down. So now what Carter does, he'll take his little phone, and every now and again you'll hear a real word, but he walks up and down the house, talking on the phone, and then he goes, okay, bye, and he puts it down. So although it wasn't physical playing with him, how he taught that, just by constantly seeing my husband doing it, he's now doing it as well. So it's all about role play. But what I definitely say
so you have to make sure what you're saying at home.
be very careful what you say at home, because children are like sponges. They learn everything. And that's the best part about their brain, is it is a sponge. And it absorbs everything. They watch what you do, and then they start imitating. And that's the basis of language and communication.
Because I find Monty at the moment, he's at that age where he wants to play with other children rather than having a play date where the child is there and that one's doing their thing and he's doing his own thing. They're kind of wanting to play together. And there's more turn-taking going on now. And there's their own communication. They've generally got their own words. But I find that his play, for me, is what I would call role modeling play. So we're pushing the car, we're making the noise, and it's going to the garage, it's got to be fixed. And how do we develop that type of play? Because for me, again, it should still be down on the floor.
And that is exactly how you develop it. And sometimes what you can even do to show them functional play is if you're baking a cake, let them do it with you. And then if you have the toy ones, you'll see they'll start doing it. So they do functional, pretend, or symbolic at the same time. But it's all about doing things with your child. They are not going to learn if they are in front of a TV or in front of an iPad, or you sitting in front of the TV or in front of your phone. That's not how they learn. They learn by you showing as well as talking to them. I see we got another question about a child is 2. Do we need to determine if our child is developing empathy? And if so, what age and how? Sure, to be honest, 2-year-olds don't care about anyone but themselves. I don't know if you found it once.
No, it's me.
Yeah, everything's me and mine.
But that's normal.
That is very normal. Empathy and starting to care about someone else normally starts at 3.
I was going to say, Monty's just starting to care.
Yeah.
Or mummy got an ouchie, mummy's got an ouchie, magic kisses, and then that's it.
But before that, they're all about themselves. They don't have third person at all.
And that's normal.
Very normal.
So don't panic about that one.
Okay, should we do one more question before I think we both need to go home to sort out our babies? It's coming up to bedtime. My child has always had his hands in his mouth and never wants to put his hands down. What do you recommend? That could be very much sensory.
That it could be a number of things, yeah, but I suspect from an oral stimulation, yeah. So sensory integration would be one thing that we'd then maybe look at. So to try and encourage taking their hands out of the mouth. So it could be that they're trying to seek through their mouth, or it could be that they're trying to seek through their hands. So from my side, put in lots of tactile play. So how old was the child? 2?
And they didn't actually say the age.
Okay, so in this instance,
sorry,
let's just say that the child is that kind of little bit bigger, 2-3 years old. I'd be looking at doing kind of playing with shaving foam and really getting messy, playing with rice, playing with dried pasta, anything that's textural that you can put through the with your hands, using a dry towel, using a rough cloth, using hot, using cold, anything that is going that you think can stimulate texture, different temperature, different pressures. So it might be that you want to do some wheelbarrow games with them, pushing down on their hands. Like, so wheelbarrow games is like you're holding their legs, or you could be having the legs off the sofa and you're pushing down through your hands. Again, crawling activities. If you've got like a trapeze bar, monkey bars in the garden, and you want them holding on and pulling, so you're really, really bombarding their sensory system from that perspective. If it's orally, from an oral motor perspective, chewy chews,
crunchy foods, things that they can chew on. But because we don't know the child's age, it could be teething. Because that's something, whenever Carter's teething, and he's a late teether, so he got his first tooth a week after his first birthday.
Don't talk to me about teething
at
the moment.
He still doesn't have all of them, but I do know when he is about to teeth, because those hands, if you could put them all the way in his mouth, I think both of them would permanently be in there. So there are a number of reasons, but if you are concerned, as well as with any of the questions,
again, so if you've gone through teething and you can go, oh, you know what, it's not teething, then think about other things. Think about just stimulating hand play and the pressures coming through. Think about the crunchy foods. If you've put those things in and you're not getting the changes, then...
But I think for me, the best advice I would give is as a mom, and I'm sure dads are the same, if you are concerned, don't ask friends or social media. Contact a therapist.
Just like pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone and phone us. It doesn't mean we are going to tell you have to come in immediately for an assessment. Pick up the phone and phone us, and rather talk about your concerns, because if there is something going on, the early intervention is key.
Yep, definitely. We're there to help you. We're there to guide you. As I say, we're mums ourselves. Yeah. And so I'll often be on the phone. Andrea, Amber's doing this. Monty's doing this. Am I doing it right? Help me. And we're exactly the same to one another. So just because we're children's therapists doesn't necessarily mean as mums we know all the answers. Fortunately for us, we generally have friends that live in the professions that we can have access to. And so it's, don't sit in silence. Don't say, oh, my child's not doing this. Monty didn't start walking until he was 16 months. And my husband was having an absolute panic. And I was just like, he'll be fine. He'll walk. So I think that's it, Andrea. We've run out of time, us gossiping, and had too much fun. So thanks for watching, everybody, and take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.